Hello and welcome back to the Joyful Soul Creates. Charlotte here with a card that features some ombre ink blending through a stencil, as well as a number of other techniques which you will see later on in the video, so make sure to stick around for those as well. I'm going to start with the ink blending though, and I'm ink blending directly onto my white A2 card base. I'm using Altenew's Skylight stencil and 3 different shades of Catherine Pooler inks. I chose these because they're kind of autumnal shades, but it's also not really an autumnal card necessarily, though it does have those colours. To start with, I'm ink blending my lightest colour, which is Tiara, all around the outside edge of that kind of circular-ish shape to get my initial layer of colour down. And then once I have that done, I will swap to my mid-tone, which is Tiki Torch, which is a nice orange colour. And I'm overlapping the yellow with that and then bringing it in towards the centre. You might notice that I'm rubbing the ink off onto the inside of the lid. This is kind of similar to starting the ink on the craft mat, which helps to reduce the likelihood of it being splotchy. But by doing it on the inside of the ink pad, you're actually preserving that ink so you can still use it later rather than it's ending up on your craft mat and being washed off later. It's just a way to be a little bit more cautious of how much ink I'm using. Here you can see how it looks with those first 2 colours down, and I actually quite like the glow in the middle without having added the colour there, but it's not the look I was going for today. So I am going to come in with the Tutti Frutti, which is my red shade, and I'm going to apply that into the centre and draw it out towards the other colours. And I will go back and forth with this, working each of the colours in turn and helping to blend the colours together and really enhance the depth of the colours there. I find that working in multiple layers is the best way to do this. And here again you can see how that looks as I lift it up. I did feel like the colours needed to be a bit more intense, so I will go over them again and just really enhance the colours there. Once I was happy with it, I removed my stencil, and I did have a small amount of over inking where I had gone over the edge of my stencil, so I'm just using my sand eraser to remove that ink. So the next element I'm going to be working on is my little focal image, for which I'm using the Alpaca, and this again is an Altenew product. I've stamped him out onto a snippet of alcohol marker friendly card with MFT's black hybrid ink, and I'm going to colour it in with my Spectrum Noir Illustrator markers. I want to make the alpaca look like he is fluffy, so I'm going in with kind of C shapes for the colouring rather than a flat blend as I would normally do. And this is going to help give some texture to his wool. I did struggle with the colours here a bit because my GB2 and the FS9 and 8, which I use interchangeably, that I wanted to use as my mid and lightest colours, are running very dry, so I couldn't really get them to blend nicely. So I tried bringing in other colours to help with the blend. Here I brought in the FS7, which is just a touch darker than the FS8 and FS9 and has more ink in it, which is rather helpful when trying to get alcohol markers to blend. I also brought in the EB1, which is darker than I was anticipating, even though I looked at my swatch sheet. For some reason I was thinking this was going to be lighter. So I will go back over this again with my previous darker shade, which is the goldenrod, and this is going to make the alpaca all over darker than I'd originally been intending, but I think actually that ended up working out better and gives some nice depth to the animal. I then went all over it with the FS8 just to soften it up a little before moving the image into my MISTI, and I'm going to stamp on a bandana. This little stamp set comes with just the 2 stamps, the llama itself, and then a solid stamp you can use for filling in the bandana. Of course you could choose to colour the bandana instead or paper piece it, there's lots of ways you could do it, but I did decide I would use the solid stamp on this occasion. This is actually the first time I've used this stamp set and the first time I've used that stencil as well. I wanted to make sure, as I've already coloured the image, that I was going to get my solid portion of the bandana completely lined up. So I did stamp it first on a piece of acetate just to check the positioning was correct, and then I will stamp it onto the llama. I'm using the same colour inks I'd used for my ink blending, and I'm going to be doing the kissing technique. So first I will stamp with that Tiara ink for a solid base layer of the bandana, and I will stamp that twice to get a nice intense colour. And then I checked through my stamps because I wanted something that would add some texture. I couldn't find anything that really worked exactly as I wanted, so a bit unusual, but I pulled in a flower. This is from the Wild Hibiscus stamp set, and it has some kind of line design to it, which I thought would add the texture I was looking for. So for the kissing technique, I'm inking up that flower with the Tiki torch ink, and then I'm going to stamp that onto the bandana. This would probably be easiest if I had put the flower on a block, but I was being lazy and couldn't be bothered to look for it, so it did work well enough like this. So I just pressed it over the bandana stamp, and that will press the ink from the flower onto the bandana. I then close the bandana over onto the llama, and it puts that texture onto the llama's bandana, as you can see here. It's not super intense texture or design on the bandana. It probably would have stood out more if I'd used the Tutti Frutti instead of the Tiki torch, but I like the way it looks anyway, and I'm happy with the result. With the llama ready, I fussy cut him out and then went all around the edges with a black brush tip marker, and this will just cover up the core of the paper and make it look more finished and disguise anywhere that the fussy cutting was not exact. And this is sped up quite a lot. It did take me much longer than that. For my sentiment, I bought in a banner and sentiment that fits in it from another Altenew stamp set called Wood Palette Background. And again, I fussy cut that out and went around the edges with my black brush tip marker. And then I'm going to give the look of dimension to the banner just by using a light grey and then blending it out with my blender pen. And that just makes the banner look like it really is folded over rather than being a flat piece of paper. Just adds a little extra interest there. If you're joining in my giveaway this month, then today's secret word is alpaca. Be sure to leave a comment including that word. Then make sure to jump on over to the Rafflecopter via the link in the description and let it know that you have entered today. I wanted to add dimension to my banner and alpaca image to adhere them to my card base. And as you know, if you've been watching my recent videos, I'm trying not to buy foam tape. So I just piled up lots of little snippets of white card behind the images and used that to create the dimension I wanted. So for the banner I used 2 layers, and for the alpaca I used 3 layers, which just puts him to sit a little bit higher than the banner. This doesn't give as much dimension as foam tape, but it's a nice alternative if you're trying to be conscious of the environment and cost, and it helps use up all those little odds and ends that might go to waste as well. And I did use my Tombow Monomalte liquid glue to get all of those into position. And then I used the same glue with my reverse tweezers to help me get the alpaca onto my card base and adhered him into place. And that completed my card. I hope you enjoyed this video. Be sure to leave a comment letting me know what you think. I had fun playing with these Altenew products and of course the Catherine Paula inks. Let me know which of the techniques I shared was your favourite. I'm always interested to know that and to get an idea of what other things you would like to see in my videos. Thank you for liking, commenting, subscribing, sharing with your friends, and shopping with my affiliate links if you do. They're in the description box along with all the other information you might need. There are a couple of other videos showing on screen if you'd like to see more from me straight away. Otherwise, I'll thank you very much for watching and I'll see you again in the next video. Bye!